The Omega Beam. Full power.
Welcome to the Omega Beam number 195. I'm your host, Oren Merton. Black Adam debuted as the arch-nemesis of Shazam decades ago in the comics, and subsequently he's been written as more of an anti-hero than a villain. Black Adam recently hit the big screen with Dwayne Johnson in the titular role, and now it's available for streaming on HBO Max. That means it's high time for us to discuss it. Golden and I start out spoiler-free, but we do get into some spoilers towards the end of the show. Don't worry, we do give a spoiler warning. So let's get into it. I am here with Golden to talk about Black Adam, a DC Cinematic Universe movie, and one of the final ones before James Gunn takes over and turns the DC Universe into his playground to tell stories. So this movie had been in the works for, I guess, a very, very long time. I don't remember precisely, but I think Dwayne Johnson said he was trying to get this movie made for like 6 years or 8 years or 10 years or something. Long time. And so it's finally here, and it didn't make quite as much money as they were hoping for. The critics didn't necessarily love it, but it had a really high fan rating. So what did you think of it?
I thought it was interesting. I mean, it wasn't, it's not one that I'm probably going to go back and watch 20 times like I do with a lot of other movies. Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of Aldous Hodge, though.
Yes.
And I think that the supporting cast was definitely something that added to the movie. Pierce Brosnan and
Pierce Brosnan was fantastic.
And
Absolutely.
for those of you that are a fan of Aldous Hodge, I pulled you into the room the other day because I was watching Leverage, and his character's in space saying that they need to come get him because he's already missed a couple DC movies. Yeah. One of which he's one of the main characters.
Nice call out there. Yeah, so I would agree. There's a lot of quality elements in this movie. I mean, clearly a lot went into it. The director is, I forgot his name, but he's someone who has worked with Dwayne Johnson in the past. Not too long ago, they did Jungle Cruise movie, which was just fun, just a lot of fun. And that's this movie. This is not attempting to reinvent the wheel. It is not attempting to do anything new. And I think the critics picked up on that aspect of it, that this is a origin story that is pretty similar to other origin stories. It's just giving you what you already like in a tasty way. It's like getting a good fast food burger. You know what you're getting, but that doesn't mean you're not going to enjoy it. And I enjoyed this movie quite a bit. You know, Dwayne Johnson himself is always likable. He always has that on-screen charisma that comes across, as well as the fact that he is an incredibly talented physical actor who can clearly pull off the stunts and things that he's doing. So you already have a charismatic star. And then, like you talked about, the supporting cast, you have Aldous Hodge, you have Pierce Brosnan, and other newcomers. And there was just an awful lot of quality that went into it. It was very likable. Even if it wasn't the most original of movies. It looked good, of course, with that kind of a budget. Although, one of my personal things is that I'm not super into slow-mo, which is funny when you've got, you know, the Snyderverse, and Snyder is all slow-mo. Though my favorite movie of the Snyderverse, Man of Steel, did not have a lot of slow-mo. But anyway, so, you know, a little heavy on the slow-mo. But other than that, I mean, the effects are fantastic. It looks beautiful. There's cameos from Amanda Waller and one of Amanda Waller's agents from the Peacemaker series, and I forgot the name of her character too. But you know, there's a lot of stuff to smile at. And of course, if you do see this movie, you're going to want to stay to the first after credits scene, because I'm sure by now it's been revealed a million times, but I'm going to save it for the spoiler section just in case you are the one person who doesn't know yet, but you'll want to catch it. So yeah, I mean, in the non-spoiler section, I think that's basically it. It's don't expect a lot, but expect to enjoy yourself. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a fun movie.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of depth to it, a bit of heartache or whatever, but it's a DC movie.
Right. There's one reveal that I thought was interesting, which of course we can get into in the spoiler section. But, I think you're right that they did try and put a little meat into it. And it's not that they failed or that it wasn't good. It was good, and it was there, and it raised, what might have just been mediocre spectacle into really enjoyable spectacle. But this is a spectacle movie. I mean, it is what it is. And that doesn't mean we didn't like it, but it does mean that it is what it is. All right, let's get into some spoilers. 3, 2, 1, spoilers. I did like the way that at the beginning, the way things are filmed, etc., they kind of lead you to believe that maybe Dwayne Johnson's character, Tet Adam, is the one that got the powers initially. And that when we see the boy, that's his story. But I did like how it turns out that no, that was his son. And in fact, his son gave him the powers so that he could be this great hero. And he is wondering the whole movie, do I really want to be this great hero? Am I this great hero?
Yeah, that was something I didn't see coming.
Yeah. So I appreciate that they tried to put some swerves in the linear path of the movie. And we said it in the non-spoiler section, but I just can't emphasize how much I loved seeing Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate on so many levels. First of all, I've loved the character of Dr. Fate. I loved him in the comics. I loved him in the animated series. And it was so good to see him live action. I loved that aspect. In fact, for the three of us who watched the very short-lived NBC one-season Constantine series, on the very first episode, the woman that Constantine brings to his sort of safe house picks up a helmet, and it's the helmet of Naboo from Dr. Fate's helmet. And of course, Constantine grabs it, puts it down, says, don't, careful of that. But I've always just really enjoyed any hint that Dr. Fate is part of the DC greater universe, and that they had him played by such a wonderful actor. Just that alone really is worth the price of the movie for me. I would also add to that Dr. Fate is one of those characters where the helmet gets passed from character to character to character. And Dr. Fate in some instances is young, is a woman, is a man, etc. But kind of the classic Dr. Fate, in my opinion, the old school, is an older man. And I am so glad that they did not just put some kid in his 20s in that helmet, that they gave it to a seasoned actor, a great actor, but someone who's clearly got the years on under him. I think it was appropriate for the character, and it was my favorite Dr. Fate. So I got just so much enjoyment seeing Dr. Fate, number one, come to life, and number two, by such a good actor. Yeah. And same with Hawkman. I mean, Aldous Hodge did a fantastic job as Hawkman.
Yeah, apparently he kept looking at The Rock, according to the trivia on IMDb, and seeing how, built up The Rock is, and I can do better.
Well, that is one of those things. You're in a movie with The Rock. I mean, he's as muscular as you can get, pretty much. I don't really want to talk too much about the story in the spoiler section either, because, as we've already discussed...
And we did not see it in the theater.
We didn't see it in the theater.
We saw it at home.
One of the issues with expanding the size of your family is it becomes more difficult to find time to get away. But it did come to HBO Max, and that's where we saw it. I bet it would have been fantastic in a theater because, like we said, it's a spectacle movie, and spectacle is always better the bigger the screen you've got.
Although it's not the biggest spectacle movie.
No, it's not the biggest spectacle movie. It's certainly not the biggest, but it's in that category. And now that it's spoilery, we can obviously talk about the after credits scene. So I've said repeatedly on...
And I guess Cavill got to choose which suit he wore.
Yeah.
And he wanted to wear that one because of the nostalgia of it.
Awesome.
The Man of Steel suit.
Yeah. I mean, I love Man of Steel. It is absolutely one of my favorite movies. We've talked it to death. It's been talked to death that the Snyderverse never quite lived up to the promise. That Henry Cavill, in my opinion, was such an excellent Superman, but he never quite got the stories that really let him shine. But it was so rewarding to see him in the after credits scene. And he, we know by now, maybe if you don't follow social media, you don't know, but of course Henry Cavill, after the movie came out, put up an Instagram post saying, yes, I'm back. I can't wait to do more. And of course...
And then he didn't know that the plan for the DC Universe was different.
It was a couple weeks later that James Gunn and Safran, his co-CEO, decided that they are going to completely tell new stories. They're going to start from scratch and maybe keep a couple things here and there, but they're going to start with a young Superman and they're going to build it up from there. I am very excited about James Gunn's DC Universe, and he's officially changed it from the DC from the DC EU, the DC Extended Universe, to just the DCU, the DC Universe. I'm very excited. I love James Gunn as a storyteller. I've loved so much of what he's done in movies, either for Marvel or DC. I've loved the Peacemaker series. If you watch our episode on that, it's so good.
And it was his wife that was in Black Adam.
Yeah. I forgot the name of her character.
She wasn't his wife at the time, but...
Oh, I thought they were... Were they not married yet?
I don't think they were married yet.
Oh, they may not have been married by the time they filmed it.
I think they were engaged.
Yeah. I love what he's done. He's a great storyteller. He's a real comic guy. He knows comics back and forth. And it's hard for me to think of who would have been a better person to helm a new era of DC stories. But unfortunately, it did mean that he had to say goodbye to Henry Cavill, to Dwayne Johnson as well.
Emilia Harcourt is the
Emilia
character.
Harcourt. That's the character. Excellent, yes. I'm a little sad because, like I just said, I love Henry Cavill. I think he's great in everything. He was great in Mission Impossible. He's great in the Enola Holmes movies. He's pitch perfect as The Witcher. I'm just a Henry Cavill fan in general. He was sad and wistful that this was taken away, but James Gunn did it the right way. He didn't have a publicist let him know or talk to his agent. He had a face-to-face with him. I think that is, the respectful way to do it. And he said, they talked about future projects, whatever. And whatever, maybe he'll show up. They can always make him call, instead of Kal-El, he can always be Jor-El.
Yes.
That's tried and true. So, he can always find his way there, but I think they're done with the Snyderverse.
CSU, DC Snyder Universe.
Pretty much. So, I'm excited where things are going because the movies have been very disjointed and, kind of almost tackily connected. Because it's like they make their own movie and then, we have to connect it somehow. And it's always felt kind of forced, except the ones that have nothing to do with it, like Robert Pattinson's Batman, The Batman, which is just its own thing, or Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, which is just its own thing. So the actual DCEU never quite took off the way they wanted it to. I think this new James Gunn DCU has a very good chance of being that good. And he's writing the next movie. He's writing the Superman movie. So that's where you start. And he's doing it. And I think he's doing it right. And he is the right guy to do it. But it does mean that it's bittersweet that Henry isn't coming back. I'm a little less, disappointed that Dwayne Johnson isn't coming back. I mean, sure, he was great as Black Adam. But at the same time, it's not like Black Adam is my favorite character in the DC universe or anything.
I'm looking at the trivia for Aldous Hodge. Mm-hmm. I don't know, in a fight between Aldous Hodge and The Rock. It might be Aldous Hodge.
Really?
Yeah, he's a trained martial artist.
Ho-ho.
He studied Shaolin Kung Fu, Wushu, Kali, Capoeira, Jeet Kune Do, Muay Thai, and he used to fight competitively.
Oh, so he's no slouch.
Jeet Kune Do is the one, Bruce Lee.
Uh-huh. I mean, he obviously looked the part as Hawkman. He was fantastic. He was an absolutely fantastic Hawkman. By the way, if you, of course, read the interwebs, you will, of course, find the race haters upset that Hawkman wasn't white as the driven snow. But first of all, they can just really get a life. They're worthless and pointless. But second of all, Carter Hall, Hawkman, was, in the original, was supposed to be an Egyptian. He was drawn white because everybody was drawn white, but he was supposed to be an Egyptian. So I think having a actor of color play someone of Egyptian descent is absolutely on the money. They didn't do anything that anybody should have been upset about.
Yeah, if you're looking for a fun DC movie, it's not probably the most fun, but it's definitely entertaining.
Yeah, in 2023, I'm looking forward to Shazam because I loved the first one.
Yes.
And the second one, looks like
the first one we got to see a couple times.
Yeah, we got
times before it was even out in the theater.
Yeah, we got a special
Actually.
DC screening of it. It was fantastic, and it was a great movie. It was a really enjoyable movie. Anyway, so I'm looking forward to it. And then later in the year, I think over the summer, we're going to get Aquaman, the second Aquaman movie, which is supposed to be a buddy film between Jason Momoa's Aquaman and his brother, Orm.
Okay.
And that sounds like it's going to be really fun. And those may be the last two connections to the DCEU before the future DC continuity movies are the James Gunn DCU. Because I know they're going ahead with a sequel to The Joker. It's been widely publicized that Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga are going to be doing a musical of The Joker with Lady Gaga playing Harley Quinn. So that's going to be something. I don't know what, but it's going to be something. And then the Batman, Robert Pattinson's Batman, is going to continue. And I don't think that is going to be part of the DCU. I think there's just always going to be, as long as Matt Reeves, the director, and James Pattinson, the star, want to keep the money machine...
Robert
Pattinson, thank you. Want to keep the money machine flowing, DC's going to let them do it. So, yeah, that's Black Adam. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Golden.
You're welcome.
And that's it for this episode. You can find the show notes at theomegabeam.com/195. If you liked this episode, please leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Your reviews help people who like this stuff find our podcast. If you have any comments or suggestions, please drop us a line at info@theomegabeam.com. Be good to yourselves and each other, and we'll catch you next time.
The Omega Beam. The Omega Beam. Full stop.